Hi, I'm Kysh and you're listening to the Solo Nerd Podcast. Today, I'll be speaking with comics writer and creator of the Wrath comic series, Scott Kysh, here to promote the Kickstarter for the comic's fourth chapter. Welcome back, Scott.
Thanks. Glad to be back. Glad to be speaking with you again.
Yeah, well, thank you for reaching out and thank you for joining us today. But outside my introduction, who is Scott Kysh in his own words for our new listeners?
I'm just a humble creator that had this idea for a comic. I was working in the criminal justice system at the time, and I kind of got these ideas and wanted to show something that kind of expressed what victims go through and how that can affect them. And that kind of led to this series Wrath, which is, about that young man named Doug who had that, abusive childhood and how it's affecting him and this newfound ability that he has.
Yeah, I remember when you told me this the first time I interviewed you. And I also talked with another creator. His name is Bill Goslin, who does like a children's comic series, Baby Barbarian. And he also explores rage. So I was thinking of that and what you're saying about, I guess, trauma associated with rage. And I kind of put that into like one of my D&D characters, my barbarian. So as I was telling him and I was telling other people, like I set the character up now, but I haven't been able to put it in use yet. So I wanted to, every time she rages, the DM would roll like a D8, and then he would decide the side effect or what happens to her after once she comes down off of the rage. Instead of, I guess, I don't know. I've never played a barbarian before, but I think you have to like take a short rest or something that happens after you rage.
I think, I played Pathfinder.
Uh-huh.
And I believe Pathfinder, you had some fatigue rounds where you would basically take some fatigue penalties like -2 to strength and stuff like that. But
Uh-huh. So yeah, he may include something like that in there, but yeah, I think fatigue might actually be another side effect of rage. Is it? Do you know? Because I
uh,
know like the other side effects is supposed to be like high blood pressure, I think like digestive issues and migraines and stuff like that. So fatigue might actually be another one.
yeah, it definitely puts a lot of stress on the body.
Uh-huh.
Like on how deep you go, because there's that blind rage where people just black out.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I imagine that there's a lot of negative side effects. I haven't done a lot of research on that yet, but yeah, maybe we'll incorporate some of that in future chapters.
Well, speaking of Wrath, what is the series about for those who are new? And then what should return readers expect for this chapter 4?
Okay, so we touched on it a little bit with the intro. It's
Mhm.
about Doug and his best friend Nicole, and he had some abuse, in his early childhood, but he was one of the lucky ones where his mom, found the strength to get him out of that and give him a more positive life for the rest of his childhood. But some of those memories, some of those emotions, have been very deep inside of him, and so now that he's on the verge of adulthood, some recent events while he was kind of diving into his past memories pull all of that to the surface, and he discovers that he has this ability to take all of those negative emotions that he had buried down and manifest them into a physical form. Now, the first time he does this, it's kind of a subconscious thing, and he doesn't have control of it, and he has to kind of piece that together, like what's happening. And as the series goes, he confides in his best friend Nicole, and they start to put the pieces together, and basically discover that he can do this kind of thing at will under his control. Now, those who read issue 3 or chapter 3 know that there's more going on around Doug and Nicole than they initially thought. And they come out of a little scrape with just one clue as to, what's going on. And that's a book. And so for those who read chapter 3, chapter 4 is going to involve getting Doug back into the fight as he was a little disheartened from the first encounter, and what's inside that book.
Uh-huh. So how much has the creative process changed, if at all, from with Wrath from chapter to chapter? Like, has there been an increase in readership, engagement, sales, and then you're incorporating other new elements, possible foes as well into the story. So how has it changed from chapter to chapter?
So the first chapter was the introduction to Doug and Nicole and this strange emergence of the powers. Chapter 2 was them realizing this was a thing that happened to Doug and them learning to basically get the basics control of the power. 3 was them kind of testing that new ability out and trying to, figure out something that was tied to that first incident. And then 4, like you said, we're introducing a new character, that book. And I think 4 was probably the most challenging one for me to write because I'm basically introducing this whole new character through a journal. So that was a bit of a challenge for me as a creator, as a writer, to kind of put you into something, a whole character's past, but at the same time make it small and short enough that it's engaging, but I'm giving you enough information that you understand who that character is.
And so what about the other elements? Have you noticed an increase in like readership and in maybe sales or engagement through social media, or maybe through like mail or anything like that? Email, I should say.
I use Global Comics. That's been something that has kind of popped up since I've started creating. What I like to do is I do get some engagement between campaigns, but I usually open up free reads. So like right now you can go on to Global Comics if you're brand new to Wrath and wanted to check it out. You can read the first 3 chapters over there for free right now through the end of our campaign. And I have seen quite a bit of readership over there. I think last year we were in the top 10 read action comics over there. So,
Cool.
little victories, little growth. But we're hoping to expand more every chapter, every Kickstarter. And we're hoping that this one's our biggest one yet.
So how many, I don't know if you told me this before, but how many chapters do you plan on having for, I guess this is like the one arc, right? So how many do you plan on for this one?
We're planning on 6. So we hit the halfway point with 3. So now we're starting to hopefully get the downhill side of it. And, this is a big undertaking, like most people tell you, and they are correct, that when you start small. But I had a drive and I had a vision and I wanted to do that full 6 chapter arc. So we're in it for the long haul.
Well, now that you've gotten your feet wet a couple of times with Kickstarter and crowdfunding, what advice would you offer to other creators you wish someone would have told you, I guess, before and during your previous Kickstarter campaigns?
And this is a good question, and I try to help people out when I see them with specific things. So I'll kind of hit some of the recent questions or concerns that I've helped people with is when to start. I recommend you get in there and you get and this can vary depending on what platform you use, Indiegogo, Kickstarter. For Kickstarter and Indiegogo, you want to start a month out, get that pre-launch page out, start building hype, let people know what you're doing. One of the tricks with Kickstarter is you can put in the bare minimum, like just a quick little synopsis, all your info, to get pre-approved. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen that, but you have to get pre-approved with Kickstarter before you can launch your page or even launch your pre-launch page. But
I didn't know that.
What you can do is just put in the bare minimum and get that off, get approved, and then the rest of that time between your pre-launch, like that month, and when you launch, you can still go in and finish building your page. And then just hit the launch button on launch day, and you've already had that whole month of pre-launch, letting people know your project, and you got your time to build your site, and then you're ready to go for launch day.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm not really familiar with how the stuff is. I just get pre-launched links or when it goes up. I don't really know the whole thing. So yeah, that's interesting. And I remember hearing there was one person I spoke with where he didn't know how the payment process was with Kickstarter. So you get it like what, like a week or two after it's finished?
It can depend, and that's for both Indiegogo. I've done both. So both Indiegogo and Kickstarter, it's an estimate on when you get your funds. So once you meet your goal and once they've collected all the funds, it can take 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes even longer, depending on, you know, how many Kickstarters or what their staffing is like. But yeah, there is a delay before you get the funding. One difference between Indiegogo and Kickstarter, and this is one thing I like about Indiegogo better, is Kickstarter does not charge the backer until after the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So if you started at the beginning, you're like, if you were a backer at the beginning, you're like, oh, I'm really excited about Wrath. I'm going to pick this big tier. And then you go ahead and pledge that. And then a whole month goes by. And then we fund, and then you realize, oh, I don't have the funds anymore to pay for that. That can actually negatively impact the campaign that way.
Yeah, I've seen that. I think I spoke with Tyler James with Comics Tribe, and he told me that happens a couple of times. And he'll go to like their profile and see that I think it was like not a burner profile, but it was kind of like, I don't know, maybe it was like a burner profile. Like they go and they help pad the numbers, but then they pull them back like maybe the last 24 or 48 hours. And then like there was another company or something like that, another organization who I think it was last week, where it was kind of like going around on people's I guess campaigns. I don't know who it was, but I saw a bunch of people tweeting about it. How about how like maybe the last day they were pulling out of people's campaigns, but they were doing it with a bunch of campaigns. That's why people started to notice and start talking about it. So yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah, that's a problem, but that's just something you have to deal with when you're crowdfunding. You know, I don't know what the motivation for doing that is, but yeah, I've seen that happen to another creator, like really bad, where like he got a big, huge donation and he was super excited about it. And then right before they pulled out, and then the whole campaign just failed.
Just, yeah, what is the motivation for something like that? That's so crazy. But throughout this whole process, even with not just with chapter 4, maybe even all the previous 3 chapters, and then managing your doing your day job, and then managing whatever your home life, partner, kids, pets, trying to maintain friendships, relationships, and even trying to get some time for yourself. So do you, or did you ever get overwhelmed? Does it ever become too much? And how do you typically manage your mental well-being when it does?
And yeah, that's a very good question. A lot of the kind of the downtime, or at least the negative time, is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding, this going back to your first question, if this is your first time, it's an emotional roller coaster. You're going to have highs and you're going to have lows. And the longer you campaign, the crazier the ride can get for you. But it's always good, like after a campaign, especially when you're waiting for your payment, just take a break, breathe. Anytime I feel overwhelmed, like I don't have deadlines for myself, because like you said, I've got a pretty full plate. So I can just hit the brakes whenever I need to and just, take some time with family or myself, So yeah, it's very important to understand, especially when you're doing something big, that you're ultimately in control, and you need to understand when you need to take that break.
So my last question for you, Scott, is what is your idea of success? And has it evolved since the last time that we spoke, or is it pretty much the same now?
It's pretty much the same. One of the common mistakes, I think, when people try and gauge success is looking at other people. Like, oh, well, this person did this, this person did this. If you can actually get a crowdfunding campaign and you can meet your goal, that's a win. Like, no matter what you look at, like, so much, this person made 100K on this. Well, what did they have going for them? Where did they come from? Did they already have a name for themselves? Everyone's situation is different. So gauge success on what you're able to do and take pride in that.
Uh-huh. So is there anything else that you want to touch on about Wrath as a whole, or maybe just this chapter in specifically that we may have missed? And I know it's in the pre-launch stage right now, but the campaign will go live once this episode airs. So do you know the rewards you're offering for potential backers yet?
Yeah, there was one I wanted to talk about in particular. We didn't get it into chapter 3 until later in the campaign, but we actually have a donation tier where you can actually secure copies of chapter 4 for yourself. And then through ties from my work, you can actually donate 2 copies of both 1 through 4 and 2 local youth that are being detained in my county.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's something that, I was working on trying to get done before my chapter 3 campaign, but there's a lot of, bureaucracy, talking to the right people and getting approval for it. But we've got that pipeline open now, so it'll be on there day 1 of launch. It's limited to 15 right now, but if it's pretty popular, we can open it up a bit more. And like I said, those will go to kids like in juvenile hall, and we have a boys ranch out here. And so I get those directly to their librarian, and then they have to modify them because we do the I forget what it's called, but it's basically the staple backing. They have to pull those out and then thread string through them, and before they can give them to the kids. But
well, is there anywhere else people can go if they want to make donations? Just specifically, not that they don't want to, maybe they don't want to do the comics, they want to just donate to the detention center themselves, or like a program they can go to.
I don't know if we have one of those set up in our county. Like, I know that they've had people donate stuff, but I think that's more through like maybe the library system.
Okay.
Because the librarian that works at the hall, she works for the actual library system.
Okay. Yeah, but I think that's really cool. I've never heard of that being an option. So hopefully that inspires other people to maybe make that an option as well for their tiers on their campaigns as well.
Yeah, it's something that we're still early on, but if other people are interested, we would love to open that up more to other creators. The trick is you have to get your content approved, so certain things are going to be too mature for them, but we're definitely open for different options on that.
Okay, cool. All right, well, again, I want to thank comics writer and creator of the Wrath comic series, Scott Kysh, for joining us here today to promote the Kickstarter for the comics 4th issue. I highly recommend our listeners to consider backing Wrath and or purchase the previous 3 issues if they can. All of Scott's socials and Kickstarter will be listed in this episode's details for those who are interested. Again, I'm Kysh Garner, and you've been listening to the Solo Nerd Bird Podcast. Thank you.